Welcome to Bradford and Brooks with your host, Margie Bradford and Jim Brooks, live on WBRT here in downtown Bardstown. The show is sponsored by Springview Hospital in Lebanon. Thank you for listening to 97.1 FM, 1320 AM, and 94.9 FM in Lebanon. Bradford and Brooks, a civil discourse of discussion where community involvement is encouraged. Bradford and Brooks is on.
All right, good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you this morning. And Margie, it's a beautiful sunny morning outside.
It is gorgeous out there, and it was wonderful yesterday.
Well, I think it was pretty nice on Sunday as well.
I know.
So.
And the best thing is my daughter was spent all day yesterday digging up that invasive monkey grass.
Well, God bless her. What'd she do wrong? You made her do that?
No, I tell you, I'm singing her praises out the window.
All right, well, very good. Very good. Well, Margie, we have a very special studio guest with us today. And we're always happy to have guests in the studio. It just adds a lot to the conversation to be in person rather than telephone. So anyway, our special guest today is Wally Dant. He is the your title is distiller,
the president
of Log Still Distilling.
You got it. Yeah.
And Wally, just for clarification on my part, sometimes it's referred to as Gethsemane. I mean, what's the proper location for reference to your operation? What would you prefer it to be as far as location goes?
So we say Gethsemane because that's what it was known for a long time, and I guess from a postal zip code perspective, once the post office, which they had one at one point in time, went away, it became New Haven. From a post office perspective. And then if you're out there, some New Hope claims you or New Haven claims you. It depends on. So I say Gethsemane. That way I'm neutral on New Hope or New Haven.
Well, I know what you mean. Cox's Creek out my way. I live in actual Cox's Creek, but the post office covers all the way out towards the 245 out past the hospital.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, that it's a big area. So, I consider Samuels and Deatsville. I don't consider those as Cox's Creek, but the post office might. So I know what you're talking about. Well, Wally, I tell you, we have watched from afar. You are quite the entrepreneur, bringing back to life an enterprise that goes back several generations in your family to create bourbon in southern Nelson County. Tell us a little bit about your family history and you've had successful careers throughout your life and what brought you back to wanting to bring back the name in bourbon, the Dant family name.
Well, for all of us, the Dants that are here today or gone before us, our name, our last name was kind of synonymous, as much as like the Beam family or the Samuels family in terms of bourbon history, and for us, and for me to be able to bring our name back into that was kind of like a family dream come true, because while we sold our brand, that J.W. Dant Distillery and that brand. Back in the early 40s, my family members, my grandfather, either his uncles or his cousins, all continued to work a lot in the bourbon industry until a lot of them, aged out and retired. And that was kind of like he's a fourth generation, right? So I'm a sixth generation Dant, descending from Joseph Washington Dant, who founded the original J.W. Dant Company. And so for us to be able to honor our history, a number of those, like J.W. Dant's sons, went on to found other distilleries or went and worked at other distilleries as master distillers. And for us to be able to bring back our name into some level of prominence was really something that we wanted to do and establish. And so given the opportunity and to one, buy back our old distillery, which is where my dad grew up, raised on those grounds. My grandfather owned a home on that distillery property. My great-grandfather owned that distillery at one point in time. To be able to get that back into our family name and resurrect, a new company and kind of honor our past was really something that we wanted to do. And do it in southern Nelson County, right, which has been home to my family for many generations, and to be able to kind of do that on our site was pretty important to us.
Is this a family project, or is this a personal project?
No, well, it's always personal.
Well, no, I know that, but I mean.
No, but it's a family affair.
Okay.
I have children that are involved. I've got cousins of mine that are part of this. We have a number of them that are, working in other roles at the distillery. But ultimately, it's about family and community for us. And having our family involved back in that community to be able to give something back to that community again. We have almost 48 employed people out there, in addition to kind of all the temporary folks that we have coming out, like for our AMP season. We've employed almost about 150 people so far, if you count all of those in. And to be able to do that in that part of the county that, hasn't had a distillery and since ours shut down in 1962, it was pretty meaningful and pretty important for us to give back to the community that's supported our family for generations.
Well, now you've done something really different, though. I mean, tell us about the AMP. Tell us about this amphitheater, because this is totally different from what other distilleries have done to attract the tourists and build the name and build goodwill.
Right.
So tell us about that.
You become a destination and not just a single stop on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Yeah, so we're new, right? And so as a part of being the new kid on the block, we wanted to create a different experience for everybody. And you really have to go back and credit the distillers that have been doing this for a while, and the Kentucky Distillers Association for getting some important laws changed that allow us to do the things that we've done, right? So now you can have restaurants on your campus. So if you look at what Bardstown Bourbon Company has, did, right? And that's kind of that liquor by the drink. And so I've been in Nashville for 22 years, mostly healthcare work. Did own a wine and spirits distribution company in Tennessee, and but mostly in that line of work. And so when we came up here and we envisioned kind of what we wanted to do with our distillery, being out of Nashville and looking at the world of entertainment that comes out of Nashville and how much of an attraction that's become for the state of Tennessee, and you're saying, well, how can we bring a slice of that up to our distillery? And so that's kind of how the AMP was born, was, hey, if you can mix great bourbon and gins, which we do as well, with entertainment, live entertainment, in an area that, everybody that wants to go see a really good concert has to either go to Louisville or Lexington or down to Nashville. And so we thought, why can't we bring that here? And so that's how that AMP was born. It was really born out of creating something that would be a destination that would draw people here, that would give them a reason to come back and come back again. And not saying that people don't come to, to Heaven Hill or Barton's and enjoy the tours and the tastings that they get, but everybody's about trying to create a relationship, and we want people to have a relationship with our family, and you can do that through music and bourbon, and so that was really kind of how that was born.
All right. Well, it's been impressive, the lineup of entertainment that you've had there, and I will tell you. You said the AMP is about 2,000
About 2,000 seats.
That is a wonderful size for a concert to be for really an intimate setting. You know, if you've been to, you know, stay at the, concerts at Riverfront Stadium or you know, Freedom Hall or the Yum Center. Yeah. Those are massive venues and not very personal, and you're as likely to have somebody dump their beer on you falling down the steps as you are to hear some good music. Right. But that's to me, that 1,500, 2,000 people is an ideal size for a very intimate experience and a memorable concert.
Well, you know, the artists that have played there this past season, I think they appreciate the intimacy that we have out there, because you can really see it in our patrons' faces from their perspective, because they're that close to them. And you know, with that size of venue, there's not a bad seat in that house, right? I mean, you're at the most 150 yards from the stage, at the most, and you know, we have a lot of people that walk up, take great pictures of artists that are, you know, 10, 15 feet away. And when you can create that intimacy for the artists and for the audience, then you really, I think you've created something really special and unique that people want to go, hey, I'd like to go back and see XYZ when they come back and come again.
What are some of the artists that you've had? Because, as I said, you're talking to an ignorant person here about this, so you have to. Maybe everybody else knows this, but
yeah, Margie, I need to get you out there. That's really what that means. You know,
yeah, I'm open.
Well, so
my date book is not full.
So we actually begin the season next year, early May. I think I think the first week of Derby is what we're shooting for, and then we go through the end of October again. So we have a longer season than we did last year because we opened in almost the end of July. Right. But you know, for us, like, we had Little Big Town, right? That was kind of the big show for us, to be able to bring a country music act such as Little Big Town into Gethsemane, Kentucky, was, you know, a feat and a miracle in and of itself. But we've got some great people that work for us, that I've known for a number of years, that know folks down in the music industry, and so to be able to have them get folks like that up here, or you know, we had Kansas, we had Cheap Trick out here, we had Clay Walker out here, who just put on one heck of a show. Sammy Kershaw was here. You know, when you can bring in those type of artists that you know, are that high caliber, and you've got folks out there in the audience that are appreciating them. You know, all of them have said, without exception, that they'd love to come back and play again. And so that, to me, means we're doing the right things. We may not do everything right, but at least we're doing the right things to have them say, hey, I'd love to come back, and, you know, invite me back anytime. And I think those, when you can do that, you know, then that says something about, you know, kind of the stuff that we're doing.
Well, what would be, I mean, in the price range for these tickets for?
Well, you know, every artist is certainly, every artist is different.
So they're all different?
They're all different. You know, it depends on what we're paying that artist to do and come out, is associated ticket prices. And so, for instance, you know, Little Big Town, I think the general admission ticket was maybe $100 or maybe $75 for that ticket. And if you have front row seats, that's a little bit different. And then we got some VIP seating that's a little bit different from a pricing perspective. But you know, when you looked at Clay Walker, I think we had maybe $50 general admission tickets, or $40 general admission. And when you really talk about general admission, you're only 100 yards away from the stage. You may not have a cushioned seat, but you can sit on the grass and enjoy the show just as much as anybody can down there. And so to be able to provide that level of entertainment for not a whole, what I consider to be not a whole lot of dollars. And, we don't charge $20 for a beer like they do at Riverfront Stadium or they would at the Yum Center. We charge $6 for a beer. And so when you can do that, and give people bang for their dollars, and they don't have to travel an hour and then an hour back. That's the nice thing about some of the things that we're doing down there.
How do you advertise your shows?
Well, WBRT helps us out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and social media.
And social media does. I mean, we have reached out a lot to the local media, and we, quite frankly, we could be doing a better job at that. It's funny, just like you, Margie, you haven't been out there yet, and we could be doing a better job at promoting our stuff. Last year was a rushed promotion, right, where effectively a week before the first show we're saying here's our lineup, right, because we were just trying to cram it all in because we knew we were opening in that mid-July time frame. And so this year you can expect to hopefully see within the next month our lineup for all of next season. And so that gives us a lot more lead time to work with the radio stations, local media, our social networking aspects, so that people kind of know what's coming, can anticipate what's coming, and really, I think we're really excited about next year. We've got some great acts coming that we're pretty excited about.
Well, Wally, tell us a little bit about the what's the bourbon that under the Log Cabin Distillery name, and are you all actually set up for distilling on the site?
Yeah, so Log Still, right? And the reason why we call it Log Still, for those of you that don't know our story, right? Joseph Washington Dant began distilling his first product in a hollowed out log. So that's and it was called Stilling on the Log. And so there was a couple of distillers that were famous for that. He was one of them. The Wathen family was another famous distillery that started out in a hollowed out log. And so as a way to honor our family heritage in the bourbon industry, we thought, hey, if we can call it Log Still, then we get to tie our name back into that family lore. And so that's why, and we're a distillery, so we have an active running still out there right now. It's a small one, while we build our big production facility. Right. But it's a 50-gallon mini hybrid, what we call a hybrid pot still, and so it's a pot about 50 gallons, and it's got a little column still on top of it. And it's got a gin still associated with it as well, and so we can do both our bourbons and our gins in that location, and it's right there in our tasting room. It's visible to everybody when you come in there and see it as part of the tour that we have. But we are producing our own stuff right now. Having said that, we've been at this from a planning perspective for a little over 3 years now. And so I've been working with another distillery out of kind of central Kentucky. I'll leave it at that. That's been making our stuff for us for about 3+ years. And so our first 4-year-old product will come out probably next September. And the other stuff that we are selling currently for our bourbons, a 6-year-old bourbon, is sourced, made right out of Bardstown, Kentucky, and we couldn't be more pleased with that relationship and how that's gone for us. I know the master distiller himself, and he's told me on more than one occasion that it's some of his best stuff, and he told people not to sell it anymore. But it's really worked out well for us, and we're open about it. I mean, we're open that it's sourced bourbon that you have right now in your hand, and
well, that's not really uncommon.
It's not uncommon, no. I mean, there's a lot of horse trading that goes on back and forth between the distillers, and so we're certainly a part of that. Yeah.
So what? are you building bourbon warehouses like everybody else is?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think hopefully this month we will break ground on 2 new warehouses out there to be built for us. And Music Construction's doing those, so Tommy, Donald, and Laura and that whole group are building our warehouses just like they built just about everybody else's around the area. Ours aren't going to be quite as big as some of the ones that they're putting up, but it'll be around a 30,000 barrel. A couple rickhouses will be around 30,000 barrels apiece.
Well, Wally, I noticed that one of your products, of course, you just mentioned that you've got a gin still. Why also branch into making gin? I know nothing about gin other than I think it's part of a Tom Collins. You know? And then you've got a finished gin. Is that in a bourbon barrel or?
It is. Yeah.
And I thought that was unique because I mean even just the picture of it you can tell.
So that say again.
It's taken on some of the properties from the barrel,
okay.
Right. which is interesting in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
But why the and just my own curiosity, why you decided to also get into gin as well as another product line?
First of all, I like gin, right? So there's one reason, but that's not really the sole reason. In my mind, why gin versus like a vodka or anything like that? Gin you can have fun and experiment with, right? So when we set up this company, while we're on that craft distiller size, we wanted to make sure that what we do on a day-to-day basis is that we have fun, and gin has you can be creative with gin from a botanicals perspective, right? A vodka is a vodka is a vodka. Now, there are some people that make great vodka out there, but basically it's a single grain, corn, wheat, potato, and how many times you distill it and run it through to quote unquote purify it, right? And while there's some great stuff, we just said we don't want to compete in that category. We just didn't think to differentiate ourselves from somebody else, like a Tito's, for instance, that we'd never be able to do that. Now we can do that with gin, right? Because we can have our own special botanical mix, and you can finish it just like you said in our barrel finish product. And you can have fun with it. So you can take local Kentucky botanicals that we're experimenting with now to really kind of bring a different, unique flavor to our gin profiles. And so our first 2 gins, we came out with those botanicals because, one, while I love a dry gin, there's a lot of dry gins that have a lot of juniper in it. And for some people that drink gin, they get really off-put by, kind of a lot of them do from a high juniper content. Just because they say, hey, it's too piney, or it's just got that over junipered aspect to it. And so what we tried to do is take a balanced approach to our gin, our dry gin, from a juniper and coriander, and then have some lemon zest, orange zest that kind of gives it a nice what I call it acidity balance, and that those fruit notes like watermelon rind, we actually have watermelon rind in there, lend a little different taste profile, and we found that it's been really pretty popular. And then we take our barrel finished gin. And so our approach to the barrel finish was to say, there are going to be people that come to our distillery and say, I don't like gin. Had a bad experience with it when I was 17 years old, and I haven't had it since, right? and so we said, okay, well, how do we get them to try gin in a new and different way? And so, again, we played around with the botanical mix. So our botanical mix on the 2 gins are different. And I said we wanted to do a barrel finished gin in our wheated bourbon barrels, right? I didn't want that rye to come through because it can make it and especially in a gin product, a little spice to it. And I didn't want that to come through. I wanted a more softer profile. which we think our wheated bourbon barrels bring. And so we age it in a wheated bourbon barrel for about 6 months. And so what that does, it takes the edges off of the juniper, right? So some people consider juniper to be fairly kind of hard and edgy, and so what that barrel does over that 6 month time frame, it really kind of, while you still taste juniper, it really drops it off in the mouthfeel and palate, and then it adds in the caramels and nutmegs that you get out of that bourbon barrel, and that softness of the wheat really kind of mellows it out, and you get this. Sometimes people refer to it as a baking spice, vanilla, that really kind of comes through in that barrel finished gin. And for folks that typically don't like gin, they like that barrel finished gin because it has all of those qualities that you oftentimes get out of a bourbon. And while you get certainly a gin profile to it, it really cuts the edges off, and it was so successful that we sold out. We had our 6 month allotment of it. We sold out in 45 days. Wow. And so it's a problem, right? It's a big problem.
It's a good problem to have.
But it's a good problem to have. But we've got it back in the market now again, and knock on a lot of wood, we're not going to have that issue.
So what's it called? Again.
So it's called Monk's Road Barrel Finished Gin, and you can find it actually in most of the retail stores around Bardstown today.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to hear the story behind it because, like I said, I know precious little about gin. Wally, do you have a degree in chemistry? It sounds like, as part of your job, you or somebody you have close to you must know how all of these factors work together in a finished product.
Yeah,
that's got to be a skill that's acquired by experience and hands-on.
Well, for me, look, I'm the dumb one. I always tell everybody this. Yeah, I've got a cousin, and she is our head distiller, and that's Lynn Dant. And Lynn is a chemical engineer. She's out of Louisville. She's been in Louisville all her life, most of the time. But she went to the University of Dayton. She didn't go to my alma mater at Purdue. So I'll tease her about that one forever. But she's a chemical engineer, and she's also a Wharton MBA. So I always refer to her as the smart one of those three cousins that are kind of founded the company here, and so she's the mastermind behind all of this. She's she worked at like Dow Chemical or the old Roman Haas for years, was a plant manager in a number of different places, and then moved on into the marketing arm for them, and so Lynn is the one that's putting all of this together, that's looking at process flows, looking at the chemistry behind it. And I just follow along in her footsteps and say yes.
Smart guy.
Well, Wally, we need to take a commercial break. And you're listening to Bradford and Brooks and our special guest today, Wally Dant. And we will be back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks here on WBRT, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM. And live in Lebanon on 94.9 FM if you're in Lebanon or Marion County. And Margie and I will be with you till the top of the hour, along with our special guest, Wally Dant, who is president and distiller at Log Still Distilling in Gethsemane in southern Nelson County, if you're not familiar where that is. And Wally, again, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk a little bit about, bringing the distillery back. You had, and I will tell you, my hat is off to you as an entrepreneur, because you had to make it happen, but you had to bring utilities out there to make everything happen. The infrastructure wasn't there, but that wasn't a problem. And one of the things we face in Nelson County is for development sometimes are utilities.
Sure. Right.
Natural gas, sewer, water lines. But you kind of took the bull by the horns, I think, didn't you, in getting some of that, getting some of that infrastructure in place?
Yeah. It's had I known now what I knew then what I know now, so when we first said, hey, we're going to be back on this site, our old family site, I really, as many people would tell you in golf, is I underswung in terms of what I thought that work meant. Mm-hmm. And so as Jim Lameau, who used to be the county engineer mm-hmm. here for Nelson County for years, and he's working with me out there.
Oh, great.
And has been, and thank goodness for him.
Yeah.
And smart guy. But he really tells me this, we're building a small town. And from an infrastructure perspective, we had nothing really out there to support what we wanted to do. And so, for the first year or so after we bought the property in March of 2019, we did a lot of digging. And I didn't realize how much dollars were in digging. So, because it was one of those events in your life when you go, wow, there's a lot of digging going on, and now I tease him every time I see somebody digging out there, but and without anything coming up out of the ground. Mm-hmm. And so you had to put in a whole new water system out there, a whole new fire protection system out there, mm-hmm. because the water pressure, and we get our water from Bardstown, mm-hmm. And we're kind of at the end of the line down there in that part of the county, and so from a water pressure perspective, we can't sustain fire flow protection, right? Mm-hmm. There's no fire hydrants out there really of any size, and so we had to put in our own fire protection system out there, and so we've got a 300,000 gallon water tank out there that is nothing but fire protection for the whole mm-hmm. campus. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea, or we had to build sewer lines from our site into New Haven to take care of the wastewater mm-hmm. that we were going to have come out of the distillery. And how do you do that when New Haven had an older sewer system? And so we've worked with the city out there. Thank goodness they've been fantastic in working with us to help upgrade their facilities in order to be able to accept our stuff. We also worked with the monastery because they had an older system, wastewater system out there that they mm-hmm. needed to replace. And so the monastery was great in working with us to help get that done and into New Haven. And so when you can begin to put all these pieces together, natural gas, we don't have natural gas out there, but we need it, and so we're putting in a liquefied natural gas mm-hmm. Self-contained system out there to help power our boilers, and working with Kentucky Utilities, LG&E. I mean, we've done a lot of work out there, and the nice thing is that Nelson County's worked with us from a planning and zoning perspective to help us get some of that accomplished out there from an industrial zone perspective, and so ultimately, hopefully we can accommodate more things mm-hmm. out in our area because of what we've done, and hopefully raise property values, for everybody that's able to tap into our sewer system. Well, you get rid of a septic problem.
Right.
And so, I think as we look at it, hopefully it's helping build community one day at a time out there.
All right. Well, excellent. That I've seen this happen where people wanted to, had a piece of land out in the country, wanted to develop it well, run into the same issues. Right. A lack of utilities, but you took the bull by the horns and made it happen regardless. And my hat's off to you, because apparently from the outside looking in, it looks like this was something, it had to happen. You were driven to make a Log Still Distillery happen on the family farm, and you did.
Yeah,
I think, and so a dream accomplished, and I suspect there's more to this dream. More you want to bring online out at the distillery property. Is that right?
There is. We are in the process of hopefully breaking ground soon here on the restaurant. So we'll have about a 200-seat restaurant out there on campus. That's really a farm to table. So again, working with our local farmers to bring fresh produce and meat to our distillery is pretty important for us. Again, it involves the community, so we're pretty excited about that.
When do you anticipate that opening?
Probably in that June time frame. I'll have to ask Tommy Blinko about that. But we can put pressure on Tommy. But
I like a good restaurant.
We don't have much out in that southern end of the county, and to be able to hook that in with us and our entertainment venue, so you can come see a show, sit out on the patio, watch a show, eat. Those things are important to bringing families back and having good quality food for families to be able to have a good meal when they come out to our place. We're working with the Kentucky Railway Museum on upgrading our tracks out there that they own, so that we can accommodate our guests that come in on rail, and through the Kentucky Railway Museum, and they're excited about it. We're certainly excited about it to be able to offer guests a train ride to a distillery where they can get off and see a show, go have a drink, and eat dinner.
That'd be a really nice evening.
It would be a great evening, and we are putting in an overnight train car, so you can actually come in overnight and stay in the train car. We've purchased that train car, so it's an old time train car. Accommodates 12 people to be able to spend the night on the train, and so when you can do those sort of things for folks, that provides them a unique experience that they can't get anywhere else in Kentucky, or they can't get it really, quite frankly, anywhere else in the United States from a distilling perspective. Then again, we're building tourism into Kentucky. We're building tourism into Bardstown. We're building tourism into southern Nelson County and Marion counties, and hopefully all the surrounding counties, and really trying to make our place a unique place on that bourbon craft tour trail that we're a part of, and really trying to at the end of the day, we're hearing others that are wanting to do the same thing, and that's great. That's what you want. You want to be able to provide that experience to people coming to this great state that we produce 95% of the world's bourbon is produced out of Kentucky, and when the state of Kentucky can really tout that, and the Bourbon Trail, the Kentucky Distillers Association, and all the distilleries that are involved in it, we're just proud to be a part of it.
Wally, I tell you, I know in our lifetimes we have seen how the bourbon industry and bourbon itself has just taken on kind of been reborn. It was something in our kitchen cabinet for many years, but it's more than just strong liquor.
Right.
It's become it's just evolved into something much larger. And I remember interviewing Max Shapiro several years ago, quite a few years ago, back when they were opening their visitor center. And I asked him, I said, well, Max, did you ever expect bourbon to become what it is? And he said, no one ever expected bourbon to become what it is. And, of course, that was several years ago.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And the field just continues to blossom with opportunity. And I think we've had 2 or 3 distilleries move into start here in Nelson County since that interview. So
right.
I don't know. I've had people say, well, this is just a boom. It's going to bust at some point in the future. And that was 20 years ago.
Right.
So there seems to be a constant upward course here with the popularity.
If you look at what you can look at Heaven Hill and what now Lux Row and Barton's and Jim Beam, they're all expanding.
Mm-hmm.
They're all expanding production. And I consider those guys a hell of a lot smarter than me. And so if they are doing that, right, and investing millions upon millions of dollars in doing that, they're doing it for a reason. And they're doing it because they know that the future's continues to be bright for our brown spirit, our bourbon. And so if you're seeing that sort of investment, they're not doing it for just making vodka. They're really doing it for making bourbon. And so while we continue to see increased demand here in the States, we think we're going to see increasing demand overseas. And so I think a lot of the folks are really saying, whether it's the Asian market, China and Japan, which began the trend a long time ago, and or the European market, we continue to think that our bourbon it's uniquely American. We can say that for a fact. It's uniquely American, and it's uniquely Kentucky, and so that's why you see all this investment here in this state around increased production capabilities. And hats off to the Shapira family and the Samuels and the Jim Beam family for what they did and persevered through a lean time. I mean,
absolutely.
It was lean for a number of years, or the Browns from Brown-Forman. I mean, you look at all of those lean years that they went through where bourbon was down, and then you look at what they did to resurrect it. And the state of Kentucky has to be credited for that. The Kentucky Distillers Association has to be credited for that. If you build something that people are attracted to come towards, like the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and see what that has become over the years and what it's to become, and then kind of compare it to what California did with wine, with the wine country. We've got something, again, that's uniquely American, that attracts people to come here, and so again, we're proud and humbled to be just a small slice of that.
All right. Well, Wally, we're just about down to the wire here with our radio show. Anything else you want to leave with our listeners? You've been a great guest, and I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing some of the backstory about your operation. Well,
we're a family-owned company. We're going to continue to be a family-owned company. For us, as I've put on my wall up there, it's about God, it's about family, it's community, and it's bourbon, and it's in that order. And then if you think about coming out there to us, we'd love to have you be a part of our family, and thank you all for inviting me here on the radio station. And hope to see you out there. Maybe next time we'll do a show out there. Maybe before a concert or something like that. How's that?
We can do that. We can do that. Yeah, maybe in time for the first show.
That'd be great. Right?
Yeah, we can do a live remote.
That's getting better all the time, Jim.
There you go. I think it's hopefully
sweetening the pot over.
Hopefully it's on the Oaks Day. I think we're going to try to shoot for Kentucky Oaks as kind of their first kickoff to the concert season.
Oh, that sounds great.
But that'll be a great weekend.
Yep.
All right. Wally, it's going to do it. I think we're just about down to the wire. Margie, do you have anything to mention before we head out?
Well, I still want to know how they distilled in a holiday log. That's the only question I didn't get to ask.
Maybe that'll be a display that you can.
That's right. That's right. We've actually got a diagram of kind of how it was done. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't want to take it. We'll leave that for the next show. How's that?
Keep a little mystery.
That's right. Keep a little suspense going.
That's right. Well, Wally, again, thank you for your time today and coming in, and you're always welcome to come back. So we'll hope to see you back here in the studio.
And bring samples the next time.
We will bring samples. So me, Len, and Charles, we will make sure we do it up for you out there.
And I want to try the barrel finish gin.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. I want to try that. Anyway, you've given us quite an education about things.
Ignorant no longer.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right. No, just enough to be dangerous.
There you go.
Yeah, well, that's always been true, Jim.
Well, that's true. All right. Well, thanks to our listeners for putting up with me and Margie for this past hour. And again, thanks to our guest, Wally Dant. And we'll be back next week with another Bradford and Brooks. And we hope you will join us next week. So until then, have a great week. And I think the weather turns cool this weekend, so get out and enjoy it today.
Amen.
Take care. See you next week.
WBRT.